Black Like Me by John Griffin. A white man from Texas in the 1950s decided to take learning the African American struggles to a whole new level. He started taking a medication that would turn his skin darker and baked in a light to really turn himself black. He then left his Texas home and family and went to New Orleans to live in what we would call the ghetto, to really understand just what the blacks were going through in the Deep South. John's dream was to turn himself black and live in the ghetto to truly report on what it was like to be black in the South. He knew as a white man that there was no way the blacks would open up to him on how their lives were. So he knew the only way to truly report on what it was like to be black was to turn himself black. One of the huge conflicts he became aware of was all of the colored rights, from using separate bathrooms, water fountains, restaurants, and hotels. The struggle from being a white man all his life, being able to eat, sleep, go to the bathroom, and shop wherever he pleased, to almost being beaten by the whites for using the wrong bathroom. Another major struggle for John was trying to find a job. Even though he had been through college and had a degree, he could not find a job, a reporter, for a black man. The first job Griffin came across that he was actually allowed to get was to be a shoe shiner. At this job, he met a man that really showed him the ropes of being black. He told him what hotels would take a black man, what restaurants he could actually be served at, what bathrooms and where they were located, and what parts of town to avoid and not get hurt. Another major conflict was when John tried to use the bus to get from place to place. The tellers would give him dirty looks, act like he didn't exist. When he would be on the bus, he had to wait for all the whites to board. The blacks had to sit at the back of the bus. Often, many times, when the bus would stop, the blacks were not allowed to get off and use the restroom. If they were allowed to get off, they had to be back on time, and they had to let the whites board first. No matter how the blacks were treated, they always had to be polite to the whites to show that they were better. Yes, ma'am, yes, sir, because they knew if they were disrespectful or stooped to the whites' level, that the whites would spit that back in their face and say that they were unfit to live in society with them. Another major struggle was having to find somewhere to go to the bathroom. John often had to walk miles just to find a colored bathroom. This book really opened my eyes to just how bad life was for the blacks. Many couldn't even get a job just because of the color of their skin. The American dream is different for everyone. For the blacks, it was just to have enough to support their families. They would have to fight for equal rights. If they would fight for equal rights, they'd often be beaten and killed by the whites. Many humans have a drive to do better, be better. But how long can one really keep pushing on when society keeps beating them down? For the blacks, they knew they could never back down, or it would be this way forever. My opinion on this book was it was a good read. Oftentimes, it would be very slow and nothing would really progress anywhere, but it really gave you an insight to how bad this time period was for the blacks. From the Ku Klux Klan to unfair justice systems and just racism. I would definitely recommend this book for anyone that's into this sort of how the life was back then, how the South was, and the struggles that many of the blacks faced in this time period. Many of us don't understand anymore how bad it was to be black in the 1950s. This book really takes you inside what it's like to be black in the 1950s, from the struggles of trying to get a job, to keep a job, to have a family, to get an education, to trying to get equal rights, to trying to be treated fairly and as a human. This book is really a good read for someone who wants to understand what life was like in the 1950s for a black person.